Hi, this is Jordan.
And I'm Bryan, and you're listening to The Quality Varies.
Dungeons and Dragons.
My man. That's going to be my new sign-on. I hope everybody likes it, because it's not going away.
I don't.
You know what? Negativity feeds the algorithm more than positivity, so that's good.
The algorithm for podcasts is a very weird one.
Yeah, you got me there.
I feel the need more and more every time we do one of these to make it obvious up front that this is a D&D specific episode of the show.
Disclaimer.
I won't make any claims on what will happen to the viewership. I'm just telling people what's going on.
Being upfront.
For the next 2 episodes will not be D&D related. So if this isn't your jam, catch us on those two, for sure. And we got a nice spicy serious topic coming in January.
Mm-hmm.
But today is all about imagination.
I'm sorry, Jordan. I keep clearing my throat. I should have drank more water today.
You should have. How dare you not think about this recording
I
and
drink
your
more
water
than I
intake?
normally do.
How much water do you drink?
At least 2 water bottles.
Not an expert.
Not like those water bottles you have. Like at least 1.5 times that much times 2.
That's better. D&D 5e. Wizards of the Coast.
Yes.
November and December. Maybe October and December. I can't remember. They came out with 2 new books.
Yes, they did.
Both of them I don't think you care about. I can't think of anything in either of these that seem in your wheelhouse.
Yes. My name's Bryan. We must have just met.
Okay. Fizban's, what's it called? I have it in front of me.
Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. This book was announced several months ago, quite a long time ago, and I had been looking forward to it for the entire time. I love dragons. Always have, probably always will. You know this. I don't think I've made a character that hasn't worshipped Bahamut, the dragon god. Yeah.
Did not notice the correlation. You can
Yeah.
tell I'm a super perceptive dungeon master.
That's all right. I mean, most of the characters were like kind of, how would you say this? Like undevout or like kind
Gotcha.
of, yeah, kind of lukewarm towards religiosity, I guess. But
Yeah,
it's just always there in my head.
that's what counts.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna go over Fizban's, and then Strixhaven just came out, I think last week, week and a half ago.
Yeah, it was more recent. Mm-hmm.
And so we're gonna go over that one as well. Fully up front, we're gonna be spending most of our time in Fizban's,
Yes.
as for different reasons. It is
No bias at all.
yeah.
None.
No bias at all. It has a lot of cool stuff for both Bryan in his perspective as a player, and then my perspective as a DM. So where do you want to start, Bryan? Was there anything that just floored you? You cheat and you look at Unearthed Arcana all the time.
That's not cheating.
That is cheating.
It's not
So
cheating.
what it was
It's just playtesting.
what gosh. How much new stuff was there? A good amount of like things that had not shown up in Unearthed Arcana that did show up in this book? I don't really know how it works.
So Unearthed Arcana is character stuff. So in that
Got it.
sense, yes, all of the character stuff in Fizban's was first introduced in Unearthed Arcana. I can't think of any major changes to anything, but the 2 subclasses, the handful of spells, and the 3 feats were all introduced in Unearthed Arcana. The magic items weren't, so the magic items were all new. Yeah, so that's everything that I had already known about from UA, as the kids call it.
So was there anything, I guess, from the entire experience as you were following Unearthed Arcana, and then anything that showed up in this book, was there anything that just floored you right off the bat?
Yes. On the very first page, there's a poem.
That
Poem kicks butt. Let's see. I gotta choose my words carefully here. I was heavily inspired by that poem in relation to my game that I'm running for you guys.
Yeah.
It didn't actually change a whole lot on the front end of the story. If that like the face of the story is still the same, but like the backstory of the story did change a little, not a ton, but
That makes sense to me. I mean,
yeah.
I think you have to try to build the campaign for that to kind of resonate. Like that's the story I make is you kind of have to try building a campaign for kind of what you're saying to resonate. But yeah, there's always like what I have in my head that I know is never really gonna get to the players.
Yeah,
But it's still on my mind when I'm continuing to develop it and yeah, just those themes and those inspirations and
it gives you it gives me like a formula and like a mechanism to like run everything through as I'm writing the story.
Looking at some authors, Brandon Sanderson, for example, they are a little bit more open with works that inspired them and maybe specific things that like that was the origin of what eventually became, X thing in their book, which I find immensely helpful. But it's also crazy to see like that is not at all similar, or that's completely different than what you have in your book. But that's what happens is that like it's the beginning of a thought, and everybody's and especially something like this, like it's a bomb. It's a bomb piece of work in the beginning.
Yeah, typically I don't really like poetry, but there's just something like moving about the story that it tells. Like, so I kind of had poetry ruined for me in second grade because we spent like 3 months studying, reading, and writing poetry, and I told my teacher like a month into it, I'm like, I'm over this, teacher. This sucks. I don't like poetry. Because it was like little kid poetry that was just like rhyming or like describing the seasons or something lame. And I was just over it. But in my all of my adult wisdom, the mode of storytelling in poetry is very emotional and moving, I think. And it really resonated with that part of me when I read this. What's it called? It's like the ode to the first world or something.
Elegy for the first world.
Yeah, elegy of the first world. Yeah.
I agree. If this one moved you, Brian, I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to grab your phone and I want you to read aloud what I just sent you.
Oh boy.
I did this a couple weeks ago.
Did you text it to me?
I had some spare time at the DMV.
Oh wow.
A couple weeks ago, and came up with this little gem. If you want to read it aloud to the audience.
Okay, I've been at the DMV all morning.
Nope, not that important.
I've been working on a little piece. Let me know your thoughts. I'm gonna do my best impression of like a poetry reading night at like a coffee house or something.
Yeah.
All is forgotten. The line is my life. Passion has fallen. The line is my life. Love is now. Love is now run. The line is my life. I was born in this line. I will die in this line. The line is my life. Music and laughter is wrecked. All there is the woman saying next. Finally, it's my turn, but with dread, window closed. What a burn. I live for this line. I will die for this line. The line is my life. Oh, that was... it really moves me to something.
Yep. Now,
so
I understand this elegy might be powerful, but I'm just saying, if that doesn't give some inspiration for your campaign.
I'm sure I could work it in somehow.
Yeah, I expect it. All right. Anyways, how do you feel? How do you feel about Fizban? How do you feel about all the dialogue? So there's a
Dude,
ton of
I
dialogue
love.
boxes.
Yeah, yeah. I love Fizban. I believe Fizban is a character in the Dragonlance novels. Like,
Oh, okay.
kind of a supporting side character that's not really present the whole time.
Yeah,
But I'd go read those books just from these little blurbs from him in this book.
yeah.
He's hilarious.
So can you if that's kind of where the relation, like the personality is developed? Maybe neither of us have the answer, but I guess I'm confused on like what, because Fizband is a spoilers. So Fizband is a manifestation of Bahamut, right?
Yeah, he's an avatar in the Hindu sense of like a god has a human avatar. Yeah, basically it's just Bahamut in human form, and he takes the form of this old kooky dude.
So is this Bahamut's personality just like reflected in Fizban, or does Fizban have a different personality than Bahamut?
No, Fizban is like an aspect, like
Okay,
a
so
caricature of an aspect of Bahamut. Like,
oh, okay, so like one personality trait at the just exact like very
yeah, turned all the way up to 11, basically.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
So like all of
Okay.
this, like the the sentimentality, and the like the kookiness, that all exists within Bahamut. But when he takes the form of Fizban, these
like,
character traits just get highlighted, I guess.
gotcha. Okay, that actually makes sense. Okay, that's a much better answer. I didn't know what answer I was gonna get, and that's much better than what I thought what you were
Gotcha.
gonna tell me. Because I love the blurbs that
yeah.
he gives,
Yeah, it's so good.
especially the. I didn't mark what page it was on, but his blurb on Bahamut, like the aspect of Bahamut,
Mm-hmm.
I think it says like I think Bahamut has done the most to like prepare for anything that he might do, and he's also the richest, and he's also the best dragoniest, and he's also just the bestest.
Yeah.
And I just like super super coy, but I
Yeah.
just not original at all. But I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I loved that stuff. There was one that he was throwing shade at Tiamat, like hardcore.
Yeah,
He was like, "Man, Tiamat spent forever trying to like create the black dragon. She spent the longest time trying to create the black dragon. And boy, did I give her all kinds of notes, tweaks, all kinds of critiques and everything. But sometimes when a project is due, it's just due. Like,
yeah.
you're just like slamming black
Yeah.
dragons, and like Tiamat sucked at creating them. And
That's amazing. Well, and especially like page 19, one of the initial or one of the first couple blurbs is like it says I'm less guarded with my spells than I am with my recipes. Magic shared is soon improved, but when it comes to my pudding, well, you can't fix perfect.
yeah, you can't fix perfection. Yeah.
It's like just like personality. It's like I did not. When you said you your character worshipped Bahamut, this is not the personality of your god that
Right.
I had in my head.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to redo some of my world building if this is what Bahamut is.
Yeah, no, like it talks about it in the book a lot that he does take different forms. Like Fizban is just like one form that he takes in this one world in the multiverse, which this book does an amazing job at like tying together all of the D&D like worlds together. Like I read a lot of the Forgotten Realms books with Drizzt in middle school.
I didn't know that. That's
I didn't
cool.
even know that was D&D at the time, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really didn't. I just liked the cool edgy dark elf.
Yeah.
But that it like tied that in with Dragonlance and Magic the Gathering and a bunch of different wizards properties. So, but Bahamut takes different forms of like different people, and the book talks about a lot of times he has 7 gold canaries follow him around that represent the 7 gold dragons in his like celestial court, wherever, which is just awesome flavor, I think.
Yeah.
And I know you had referenced that in your game when my character died and was being resurrected. That was a cool reference.
It was cool to just like go do that research and just see how much they're like. Bahamut is a pretty established god and a very popular one for the community, and so there's just a lot of community stuff. The wiki page just goes on and on and on. So yeah, it was just cool to dive into that and just have my notepad next to me and just like naturally, like when I would be reading something, be like, yeah, that's sick. And just like, I'm right. Like, yeah, that's going to get included in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that I noticed were the items that they suggest.
Yeah, which one stuck out to you the most?
Bro, I never make any claims to be as mechanically optimal and balance aware as maybe you or some of our other players in our games. But these items seem crazy.
Yeah, dude, a couple of them are just cracked.
Yeah, so like Dragonlance, very niche scenario.
Yeah, but
it's a +3 to attack and damage rolls, which would put it at probably a very rare. I think that's a very rare.
Yeah.
3d6 force damage to dragon, which I'm actually familiar with because I was using some of those stats based off of other weapons that already existed for the weapon that you currently have.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a surprise at all. And then the next sentence, it's like any dragon of your choice you can see within 30 feet of you can immediately, which again, multiple dragons fitting within 30 feet of you. That's a very cramped
it's a tall
space.
Order. Yeah.
But still, like if you have two ancient dragons or these like ancient great worms or something that are just at each of your sides and both of them can do their thing as well. That's another 50 damage easily.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a bite attack. So yeah, that's crazy. I didn't write any of them down in specific, but I'm just going through them real quick. Flail of Tiamat, which it just I don't. This is where I start to doubt. Like how would I ever get this and think that it's balanced? Because I would look at like some of these other things that are labeled as legendary, and then I look at the Flail of Tiamat that says does an extra 5d4 damage of your choice. Speak a command word to make and 90-foot cone, DC 18 dexterity saving throw, which is pretty high.
Yeah, a DC 18, a 90-foot cone.
And yeah,
that's
a 90-foot cone. DC 18 won't be at like by the time you're getting a legendary item like this. Like, obviously that's not as bad. And your enemies are an extra 14 d6 damage, and it and you can use that once a day. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. It's nuts, dude. It's absolutely nuts, yeah. The bottom one. Go read the bottom one.
Oh, this was the one I was... This is the reason that I put the note in.
Yeah.
The giant canary, and it's like, why is this... I'm breeding, like, the giant canary form. And I'm like, I don't understand why this is legendary. And then I read, like, the gold dragon form. Like,
He's, like, straight up turn into a freaking dragon.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sick concept. And I like that, like, okay, there's this one thing that you can do on a daily basis. And then the dragon form, you can't use it for another year.
Yeah.
I think that's sick. And just the role play elements of that, of like, I just, the player uses it and then what do they do with it? Because it's obviously still a super valuable thing, but then, okay, do they have, they have a house at this time or like a mansion or like a castle. And so what do they go put it in their castle with guards or whatever with their other treasure, and then maybe a year in game down the road they maybe remember that they still have this thing, so maybe they go get it. So it's cool. So that just gets my mind thinking of like, it's cool. Platinum scarf is crazy. Oh yeah, this back page is all the things. That's that are just crazy. Dragon's Majesty, that also like there's a dragon vessel that is in a horde thing. That can combine with the dragon vessel, can refill or something. It can refill liquid. It's kind of like if anybody ever played Skyrim, it's like the white vial. And it can combine with the Potion of Dragon Majesty, which, again, transforms you into an adult dragon for an hour. And then when you combine those two things together, you can do that. You can do that once a day, I think, if I'm reading this right.
Yeah.
So then you can just turn into an adult dragon once a day.
Yeah. Which is cool as.
The weapon. By the way, I'm gonna say this for both books and every book. I love the art. I love looking.
The art is amazing. Yeah. I don't own any of the physical books, but if I were to have one, it would be Fizban's. The art is just top notch.
I love going on to one of my favorite sites to start. When I'm going into world build something, one of my favorite websites to start with is DeviantArt, just because I love starting with like looking at an art piece like that looks sick. I would have never in a million years thought that, or even gotten to that conclusion. And the same thing, like,
idea. I've never done that. That's a good idea.
Oh, I do it more than half the time that I'm trying to kind of build through something. DeviantArt, the community Critical Role art.
Yeah.
And then all this art that's just in these books. So that's a random thing. I put it in the notes for Strixhaven, just when I was seeing some of the art for the college and everything. The items are crazy. I just got to get that out there.
The my two favorite items were the magic bow, which I wish they could have done a little bit more with the bow, I think.
Yeah.
Making it not need ammunition was probably the least of the things they could have done with a magic bow.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like one of the main points that I think they tried to put on the bow. You get extra damage with like a part of the dragon's breath weapon or something, which is cool. I always like extra damage, but they could have just made it a +1 on top of all that, and I think it still would have been fine. But that's just me.
Yeah.
That's just me.
I think in a, like, I could easily accept, like, in a campaign where again, different player types.
Right.
One of these days I'm going to find a whole set of players that are on the same page as me, where they love survival aspects of games.
Yeah.
And we'll play like a very heavy survival based, like resource stretched game where ammunition is very much like a thing. Yeah. And you're having to like try to you're trying to grab broken arrows and repair them off the battlefield and everything.
Right.
Where not needing ammunition for this bow is a big part of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because technically in the canon on paper, ammunition is tracked in the framework of D&D.
It is.
It's just not in a lot of, at least in the games that I've run.
Right.
None of, like, the players that hasn't been a huge interest in any of my players. And it usually just turns into a thing where it's like, okay, you just go to the store and if you just drop this amount of money, we can just say, like, we don't ever have to deal with this again.
Yeah. I do want to say that I do have a longbow, and I have been keeping track of all of the arrows that I have shot.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
So, yeah, just a little pat on my own back. Thank you. I'm welcome.
No, that's one of those things where it's like I can't, maybe every once in a while I'm like, I wonder how many arrows he shot in the last 7 months.
I only have like 12 left, I think. I haven't looked at the character sheet in a long time, but I don't have very many left.
Because I find that stuff very satisfying, and that stuff like that keeps me interested in non-combat situations where I'm like, inventory management is something for me to think about.
Yeah. When
there's, so that always interests me. It doesn't for other people, which I can understand though. But as a DM, I'm very happy to hear that you're tracking that.
You're welcome. But the other magic item that I wanted to bring up was the freaking laser gun. You know what I'm talking about?
They made a... Where is that?
The Topaz Annihilator.
Yes.
It's a freaking laser sniper gun. And it's awesome. It just, like, evaporates the target if it kills it. Just, like, turns it to ash. It's so cool. And the whole thing is powered by a single dragon scale. I just love that part of it.
Did you ever play Fallout 4? I can't remember Fallout as a franchise that...
No, I never play video games, dude.
Okay.
Come on.
Laser musket is one of the first in Fallout 4. You go through the tutorial and then the world opens up, but the first like main mission that you go to, you find a laser musket just on the ground in front of this museum, and you pick it up and you just start depending on the difficulty you're on, you just start wrecking people. Because that's exactly what it does. Is it's a musket and it shoots lasers, and if you kill them with it, they just turn to dust.
Yeah.
And I read this thing and I see what you did here, and I accept.
Yeah, I thought it was a super cool addition.
Yeah, I like it. I like I love firearms. I love firearms being put into the game, and also in a way where it doesn't feel out of place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
In any way,
I like
shape,
the
or form,
flavor
except for the
of
fact
it.
that it's super powerful.
Yeah.
So
I really like the flavor of it.
yeah, well, it's like if you got a dragon scale, yeah, sure. I mean, a musket at that point isn't even even the weirdest thing that's happened that week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I get scared about people like some folks in our group or some folks in another group that I have that sees this item as an option, and then the first time they kill a topaz, when they kill a topaz dragon, they want to start a musket production facility.
Uh-huh.
And
just make all of the monies.
Yeah, just produce like 600 of these things and never do combat again.
Yeah.
And they're
just
just the richest people in the world now.
Initiative rolls.
Yeah, they're Tony Stark now, and
Yeah.
they just produce weapons of mass destruction.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I lied. That would actually be a pretty cool concept of
That would be kinda cool.
a tangent campaign.
Yeah.
But yes, I loved that. Thank you for mentioning that.
Mm-hmm. One last thing on items. I don't know if you're gonna move on, but the horde item like level up mechanic. That was one of the coolest things I thought. Well, this is kind of part of one of the coolest things of this book. I think is just really diving into the power of dragons and their lairs and their hordes of treasure. I think they really took a lot from Tolkien's writing on Smaug.
Yeah.
And how the dwarves got like sick because they were spending too much time with the dragon gold. That same kind of concept is present now in D&D, where you can kind of steep your magic items in the gold piles of a dragon's hoard, and it will like absorb some of the dragon's magical energy and become more powerful. Yeah. I thought that was a super, super cool addition, because I really like customizing weapons and like crafting weapons in games. Yeah. And like I don't think you get to choose, or if you do get to choose, there's a very limited number of selections on what benefits you gain from doing this. But
there's just the tier of depending on what level dragon horde or what level of dragon had the horde. That just changes the property, and it's a additive, it's a layers thing, so you'll get, if it's a ascendant, then you get everything up to that point, and then the additional traits. So and it mentions in here, just to like as like the apex of that, is they mention specifically that dragons at a certain point, they don't need to eat or drink or anything anymore, because they are just feeding off the power of their horde, the energy of their horde. Yeah. And just that focused in, that I'm not thinking of the right word, but that focused in
like the
concept.
Lore.
Yeah. Just really honing in on that and just going committing to that, I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really talk about in the early chapters, they really just nail home that like a dragon, like dragons, dragonkind are like tied to the material world, like on a spiritual level almost. Like dragons are as much a part of the world as like the ground or the air is, but like almost philosophically or spiritually part of like the fabric of reality. And so through like hoarding wealth and like powerful magic items, the dragons will kind of condense they just kind of condense like the power of the world into their own like selves. And that's like you said, especially later in life, that's like the main source of sustenance for dragons, is just once they have enough of like the most valuable parts of the world, they can just survive off that.
Yeah. Yeah, and they've done just committing to that concept. I think is amazing. I want to move on here, otherwise we're going to spend an hour literally on the first 20 pages of the book. The dragon lore and the dragon layers, and kind of what you were talking about the fabric and like how integrated they are into the world. Can I just I love that because they give enough to the point where like my world that I've created, that I currently run campaigns in. I've created it, and it has enough of a framework that I kind of go off of what's already there now.
Yeah.
And I have a history, and I have like an origin of the creation and everything. If I didn't have that though, there's enough just in here to just make a framework based off of what they give you in here.
Yeah.
And just go off of that. Like the dragon, like you can easily, even if you don't want your campaign to be very dragon focused, you can easily make a world on the framework of what they've given you in here. Just that, like, yes, the dragons are the one that made the world. They did this, and then they did that. But then also they just give you a bunch of I don't know what to call it. Just bullet points that you can just build your lands out of, because they tell you like, here are all these different dragons, and here are the environments that they like to be in, which, for somebody that's trying to build a world, that gives them basically just a bunch of different environments that they know that they can put in the world. And so in my head, I'm just like, okay, this is the history. This continent just has all these different environments, and I just need to piece the puzzle together in the way that works for me. And I have a continent now. Yeah. And even if those dragons aren't for the campaign, even those if those dragons aren't present in the story, I now have a land.
Yeah.
Like a very a very natural seeming land, just off of the puzzle pieces of this background lore. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And to jump in, like, kind of just like started not just in my head, just kind of like doing exactly what you just described. Like, yeah, just like built a world in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Like exactly.
This campaign that I'm running for you guys, it started out as like, oh, it's just one dungeon. I'll run it in 4 sessions, and like they'll beat the boss, and like it'll be fun and whatever. Yeah. Like, it had already grown into a full campaign, like 2 weeks, 2 sessions into the campaign, I realized that it was going to take quite a long time to get through what I had planned.
When we spent more than one session, not even in the we spent them outside of the play area.
Yeah, just getting into the dungeon off of the story hook alone. Yeah. So it had grown into its own campaign, kind of organically on its own. But then I read the first, let me see, the elegy of the first world, and then the 3rd chapter. After I read the 3rd chapter, or even just the first half of the 3rd chapter, I was like, this is a world now. It's a whole thing. And it just kind of, it was kind of amazing in my head. Like, I had the campaign, and I had the world built for that campaign. And then Fizban just came in, and like a puzzle piece just kind of like clicked right in.
Heck yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I've got this whole thing now. And there's some really, really awesome examples of how to create a dragon as a character, write a dragon as a character, like write them into a civilization, whether it's a village or a city or an empire.
So that makes me want to ask, as soon as I read through this book, I immediately wanted to ask you, so you're right now in this last week and then this coming week, right now we're doing a sum shot for our D&D nights, and your Thieves Guild leader is a dragon.
Yeah.
Did you pull from the from some of the concepts?
Straight out of this book. Yeah. And like the entire thing that's happening is like basically straight out of this book. And yeah.
Oh yeah, because they give in the okay, one of the things that I put in the notes, I said in all caps, all the world building tables.
Yes, yeah. And there's there's adventure hooks, there's personality traits, there's bonds and flaws and ideals for dragons, and like motivations for the dragons as characters, and as all these different roles a dragon could play in a campaign or an adventure or a story. And there's just all the tables.
On I think it was page 32. They give all these. So with like each of these they present so many dragons in the game, and then on top of that, they for each of them they talk about their personality, and they give tables for the personality.
Yeah.
They give tables for their physical characteristics. And then in my head, I'm like I wouldn't even have thought of it, but I think in my head, dragons were still looking very similar.
Mm-hmm.
But on page 32, they just give a great example of I think it's like two red dragons.
Oh, yeah.
Or two ruby dragons or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they look so much different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Really
Yeah.
unique.
Yeah, that was a really cool table. It was like a 100, like a D100 table, wasn't it? Of like all of the different like physical
I don't know.
traits.
I don't know if I may have missed it as far as like a D100 table, or maybe it was in an appendix. But yeah, like either way, with each dragon there is separate tables to make them more and more unique.
Yeah. And it was things
which
like
I super appreciate.
Yeah. And it was things like this dragon has a scar over its eye, or like the eye is milky and glassy as if it's blind out of that eye, or
exactly.
this one adorns itself in something resembling humanoid clothes, or this one or like your dragon like
this one has like a bipedal posture.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
like changes the entire appearance without even changing anything. It just how it stands.
Yeah,
that's
or
a
like,
huge difference.
It could be like this dragon is like morbidly obese, or like it walks around as like a cat that's stalking prey.
Yeah,
like just so much variation. On
yeah,
what
with
they
like the
could look
personality
and act
traits
like.
and the mannerisms is like, like it pounces on its own tail every once in a while.
Yeah,
and it's like which is a super cool, like, even just that thought as far as like world building, even just that thought sparks, like you can take that to the moon. Like you can take that single thing and base an entire rest of the personality of a dragon around that.
Yeah.
And then go from that to a character, to now a scene, to an adventure. So it just stuff like that is cool. Dragon echoes.
Yeah.
Dragon echoes are sick.
So freaking cool.
Yeah. And it really gives, like, you have these literal ancient beings that have just been around forever. It's like, what do they want? They just want to chill. They just want to meditate all day. Or like their goals are, if anybody's played Mass Effect, like the whole, it's kind of an annoying thing that whenever the main character asks like the enemy, like, dude, what do you actually want? Its response is like, our intelligence is far supreme to yours. Like, you can't even start to understand like our objectives. It's like, okay, like, fine, I guess. it's more annoying to not think of something that actually like we could connect with.
Yeah.
But this is that thing. Like, this is totally like, yeah, I could see an ancient dragon throughout its life more and more. Just like, this is a continual thing to get stronger and stronger, or just communication wise and just control wise, not consume your echoes, but assimilate and be in contact with them just for everybody's knowledge. And
Yeah.
super cool concept.
Yeah, I loved that. And the great worm concept, where it's like the end game content for like a video game reference. You got like hatchling dragons, which are like baby dragons basically, or wormlings or whatever, and then you've got your young dragon. I think young is the next step, and then adult, and then ancient, and that's been traditionally the 4 levels, like the 4 levels of dragon, like power levels kind of.
Yeah.
But then they added this concept of the echoes, which are basically like the same dragon across the multiverse on different, so like there's multiple Peter Parkers across like all the comic book things. Spider-Man's coming out soon, or it came out today, whatever, so that's relevant.
Yeah.
So there's like all the Peter Parkers. All of those Peter Parkers are echoes, right? So in the dragon, like from the dragon's perspective, once you get to like an adult or an ancient dragon, you've been around long enough and you're like, in tune with the fabric of reality enough that you start to become aware of this other self of yours
Yeah.
on the different world or in the different dimension or whatever. And then not all the book says that not all dragons do this, but some of like the more powerful or power hungry dragons start to like sap the power from their echoes through this bond that they create. And once enough of this energy is absorbed, they like transcend the ancient dragon tier into this great worm tier, which is like basically they have the power to create and destroy whole planets at this point. It's like beyond powerful.
Yeah.
Which is just right up my alley, man.
Like you were saying, Endgame is a good kind of way to relate it. Like it gives just cool Endgame world building and Endgame options.
Yeah. And again,
like
shout out
there's
to
meat,
the
there's
artists
sustenance.
Here,
oh yeah.
The pictures of the metallic great worm is just phenomenal.
I can't remember if it was like a shadow or like a deep dragon or something, but yeah, all the like page 71, like the green dragon, just all of it. I wanted to mention as far as like the lore. So I am a sucker for a good dragon turtle. I love me some dragon turtles.
Heck yeah!
I thought it was sick, and they took the opportunity to, even though that's already in the monster manual. They just went through. They have 2 pages on dragon turtles.
Yeah. With
that, the layers for all of these guys. So, first off, a lot of these dragons, there's a lot of similar things about them, which somebody might have a problem with. In reality, I don't have that much. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have that much of a problem with, because the reality of it is like, okay, I can't think of a situation where I'm going to present enough of these dragons in a short enough amount of time to my players that they're going to be like, oh, this is just like a one action difference of the other dragon that we just fought.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's not gonna happen. But the layers, all of them are like, they're all super cool.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's just gold for me for world building stuff. Like they give so much to go off of, and that's why I was talking about like they give you enough that you can literally like build lands around the type of environments that dragons want.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that's part of their like one of the adventure hooks, I think, or some of the adventure hooks are like this dragon has just moved into this area and it's cultivating the land to be more of its liking, either good or bad, and you can either go like try to stop the dragon, or you can go on a quest in behalf of the dragon to like prepare the land in some way to like help cultivate the land into its lair, and just as it expands out across the world.
Yeah. And I like the nature of things is that there's parts of there's some things that I think are absolutely amazing that I can't talk about because you are a player in my campaign.
Yeah, I know, I'm struggling with that too. Yeah.
But I will say in general, like I read this because I've this month has been a busy month for me, non D&D related, and so I picked this up for the first time yesterday, and so going through this, like immediately I pulled up my notebook thing, and like okay, these are all the like I implemented a ton of stuff, a ton of concepts, and like there was a specific place like I looked at a piece of art and I immediately said, yep, I know exactly where that is, and I know exactly what's happening now, and this whole this overarching thing, there's a piece of it that like I knew immediately, like, oh yeah, there's a dragon. And that both kind of like you were saying, for a lot of things stayed the same, but behind the scenes, like everything changed at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even though I had to be general, I had to state that like I really got a lot of value out of this book.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like world building wise, like I said before, like I was never even interested in DMing more than 4 sessions, and like the more I read this book, and I'm looking at the maps that are in here. I don't know if you've seen the maps, the pictures of the maps, but I'm like, it's so easy.
Yeah,
it's so easy to do with this book. Like I've flipped through the Dungeon Master's Guide, and like if you want to like learn the rules really well and be like a very rules as written by the book dungeon master, the Dungeon Master's Guide is probably the way to go. But if you're more interested in telling a cool story and you really like dragons, I would almost just recommend reading Fizban's.
Yeah.
Because you can get your whole world built just with this book, and there's enough stuff in it, I think, that as I consider myself a brand new DM, and like I feel pretty confident that I could run a whole adventure just out of this book.
Yeah, exactly. And a full, like not a
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like level 1 to 20, like all the way through, like different.
and it wouldn't be strapped for content.
It might get it might get a little repetitive because like, oh, everything's a dragon or every important person is a dragon. But
well, but like I said, I think the
though.
power is in that they just. So the difficulty that I find, I can only relate to my experience. The difficulty that I have is the beginning, and so this book, it gives more than enough to lay a framework, and then it's so much easier to just go in and like, okay, what are the, like, now all I have to do is like, what are some of the non-dragon aspects, or what are some of the non-dragon characters in this? Yeah, like you can build the entire campaign around the dragons, and then you can go in and like, okay, what are some of the important characters that aren't related to a dragon, or who is not a dragon that has an important role to play. And that's not hard to do. That's not hard to do.
Yeah, that's like filling in the crack stuff, not like big, huge world building stuff.
Exactly, and it doesn't take a lot to really make it feel like there's variety in the game.
Yeah, because like we were talking about, they do have those tables where you can make each dragon so unique from every other dragon.
Yeah,
with the all the different personality tables and the appearance tables and stuff. Oh, and my favorite table, though, I don't think I even mentioned it, was the name table.
Oh, yeah.
I kept talking about it the other night when we were playing, just how excited I was to roll on that table to come up with the names. It's like 4 columns by 20 rows, I think.
Yeah.
And they're just like little like name bits that sound kind of dragony. And you roll the D20 and the D4 to get the word bit or the name bit.
Yeah.
And you just roll as many times as you want to like, and you can like jumble around the names and add or subtract letters to make it sound better.
Yeah, because that's the thing with names too, is like, as long as you like, if you can start with something, it's so much easier to even if the final name looks nothing like what you originally was going off of, starting with something and then like letter by letter switching things around, switching an S for a Z, or like an S with a Q to put something a little bit more harsh in there. That's what I'll do all the time as well. It's like, okay, I'll take a name like Daniel or something, and then piece by piece I can shift that into what I want.
That's cool. Names are like the hardest thing for me.
Yeah.
Like naming characters, naming places. I can't do it. For whatever reason. That's like the one thing that I just can't do.
That's why you need to start acquiring a massive OneNote file of just names, like me.
Of just names, yeah. So what I've traditionally done is I'll think of a word that kind of describes the character, and I'll just translate it into Latin, and that's now the character's name.
Hey, there you go. For the first couple of months, every time I had to, like, if I was sitting there trying to world build, I would look around my desk and I would like see a pen. I'd be like, Penzer, that's his name.
That's cute.
And yeah, so I had to make the OneNote file when my desk was slowly running out of items that I hadn't already based something off. I could never. There was nothing I could ever get out of keyboard. So
that's a toughie.
Yeah, that just tells you how serious. Like, I was legitimately doing this for weeks. So, okay, we have to move on. Characters.
Characters. Dude. Okay.
This is your ball game, man.
This is my bread and butter. Buddy.
Yeah. You've hinted at you've spent a little bit of time in development, in secret rooms, making some secret things.
Not so secret. Yeah. So this was an interesting experience for me because, as you know, and as the probably 1 or 2 listeners of this episode that we regularly get, as you guys know. I'm more of a mechanics focused player, but they didn't really add a ton of mechanics in this book as far as building a character, but there was so much lore and
Yeah, exactly.
narrative components that I just love. And I love dragons and like the idea of all these like any different kind of warrior like taking inspiration or power from a dragon patron or host is just so cool to me. So I just started making characters and like trying to fit. I just started fitting characters in as they kind of came to me, and basing them off of like the draconic elements in the book.
Yeah.
And then I got far enough that I was just like, there's only like 2 more classes that I haven't like assigned a draconic heritage to, so I'm just gonna do one of every single class.
Yeah.
So I have at least one subclass from each class that I've like tied to a dragon somehow.
I love it. All right, so hit us with the. We can't. You told me the number of characters that you've made. We can't go through all of them, but start hitting me with some of the spicy ones.
Okay. So the 2 new subclasses were the Drake Warden Ranger. You basically get a pet dragon that at later levels you can fly around on, which is
amazing.
It's really, really powerful at any level of play. Yeah. And then the monk is a more of like a love letter to Bahamut.
Okay.
In a flavor sense, I think, because Bahamut loves monks. The Way of the Ascendant Dragon monk subclass is more flavorically cool than mechanically cool, I think. There's some cool stuff with it though. Again, it mostly just involves extra like dragon breath damage.
Yeah.
But it's cool. But some of the ones that I came up with, so I have 15 characters here on a spreadsheet. I started rolling stats for them. I haven't really like built the character sheets on any of them, and I haven't named any of them. But their story's all kind of the same. So they all live in this mountain village. The village is nestled in a valley in this very difficult to traverse mountain range.
Wait, did you say they all live there?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they're all from the same village.
That's cool.
Different families.
Yeah.
But the nearby in the mountains near this village is a silver dragon, an ancient silver dragon, who is kind of the guardian spirit of the village. He doesn't he doesn't interact directly with the village, but the village knows that he's there. Kind of quasi worships him.
Yeah.
A little bit. And so all of these adventurers have some tie to this silver dragon.
Yeah.
And eventually this ancient silver dragon just kind of opens up kind of an adventuring school for the village, and kids and people will go just study all kinds of different things from him.
Yeah.
So there's the Drake Warden Ranger who summons this draconic spirit. So it goes back to that dragons are part of the fabric of reality of the world. And so this guy has learned how to kind of summon enough of that energy to have his own little pet dragon.
Yeah. Kind of gives it a basis.
It's kind of it feels a little synthetic, it's not a real dragon.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
sense,
I see what you're saying.
If that makes sense. And then obviously the Way of the Ascendant Dragon studies martial arts under the dragon, kind of in homage to Bahamut. The ones that I'm most excited about, a couple of married couples went to the dragon kind of with fertility advice. They wanted to have a baby, but they couldn't have a baby. So the dragon blessed this mother to have her baby was sick or something, or she wasn't going to make it through the pregnancy. So the dragon blessed her somehow, gave her this like used some of his magic on her, and so that baby came out to be a draconic bloodline sorcerer.
Yeah.
And then another family, like,
Which real quick is dope. I mean, I think
yeah,
there's so much creativity that can be had with sorcerer origins.
oh yeah,
So
for
yeah,
sure, for sure.
just to mention that it's always cool to see like yet another implementation. Like, okay, this is where they got their powers. It's cool. So
Thanks. Yeah. And then the other one I told you about, the twins. Like this
yeah,
husband and wife went to the dragon for like fertility advice. Like we want to have a family, and so the dragon was like use some like magic to help make the couple more fertile. And then the twins came out just normal, but then they like went later on in life and like started learning from the dragon, and the girl became a wizard.
okay,
And she does blade song. That's one of the
right,
subclasses of wizard, is blade singing.
yeah,
And so she sings. They learn music from the dragon, and so like the sister's music helps her physical prowess. And the twin brother, becomes a College of Creation bard.
yeah,
And so they do this like cool musical duet thing in battle, where like the sister's like casting all the spells and like doing all the cool gishy stuff.
yeah.
The like the sword and sorcery stuff, and like the brother's like doing his thing, singing the dragon song, like in support of his sister.
Yeah, I absolutely love the. It's like a concert in every battle. Like I like.
Yeah.
Oh man, not gonna lie, the envious person of me was like, that's just a sick concept in general that I'm kind of mad that I didn't think of
Sweet.
first, because
I love to hear it.
because just think, okay, I don't know if you ever played Dark Souls or Bloodborne or anything, or
I've watched a little bit of gameplay on YouTube.
so I'm not there's a lot of yeah, we're gonna get into this in a different episode that might be getting recorded right after this, but
No, we don't do that.
there's not a ton of overlap that you and I have with video games, but at least in a lot of the ones that I've played, there is very memorable and specific, and I think this is a thing for Final Fantasy, but there is very memorable music for some boss fights.
Oh, big time.
And I just think to myself, like, dude, a boss where the music, like, it is music, but it's like in D&D it is music because it's multiple people and they are literally doing this thing together.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's so cool, right? That was one of the coolest, like, that was like a inspiration thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah.
cool. The other ones that I was just like really, really excited about were like a Forge Domain cleric or any kind of artificer.
Yeah.
Where they study how to like create things, kind of in the same vein as the College of Creation bard, but more like with like forging and like crafting and stuff, where they use like dragon fire or like the scales, like in the Topaz Annihilator thing, to like craft these like magical armaments and stuff. But yeah, and then like in my head, all of these people, all 15 of them, they'd freaking destroy everything. They'd go take over a kingdom.
Probably.
15 adventurers is too many.
Yeah.
But they'd just like band up and they'd just like be friends and like have this kind of communal respect for each other, like a chosen family kind of.
Yeah, like they grew up together, and they all like they're not what people would call like a normal childhood or like a normal upbringing, because maybe for them like they were all like learning these like different magical things and had these different experiences. But like I think it's dope, and like even, you know, with all the plot hooks of like dragons and stuff, it could be the adventure is, you know, maybe they go and do their thing, but then like as over time they realize that like maybe the dragon brought them up with like the purpose of like they are his arm to like get more control over the different lands.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's one thing that we didn't even mention was minions were actually a big part
of
like a dragon's
so many options
thing, like gathering wealth and like power includes in like gathering minions to like do your will out in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely.
I think like I know they talked about it specifically with like minions are probably a big part of a red dragon's lair. They talked about a couple dragons where their personality is like more manipulative to get other people to do their dirty work, and most important, like minions in that work. So yeah, like this group, like it becomes all these. I think of like Maze Runner or all these like things like that where people go do things just because they don't know, and then later on they kind of learn that they're kind of being controlled by a puppet master.
Yeah.
I think that's dope. I wouldn't have ever thought to like.
Maybe I'll write a book.
Yeah, please. I mean, it would be. That's a concept that I haven't heard it before, and I would have never have thought to when I sit here and I dread making just one character, so I would have never even thought of like.
Dude, it's the best part of D&D.
No, man, we can't get into that right now. But never would have thought of putting them all in the same, like tying them together like that. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean they're not all necessarily like the exact same age or anything. I'm sure there's some that are older. I like the idea of one of the rangers actually like being a little bit older and being like the captain or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I like that they'd all have a different relationship with the dragon, as they're learning different things from him.
Yeah.
And they're like practicing different things, but he's like the dragon's so old that he's already a master of everything.
Yeah.
And can like fit the lessons to each person's like interests and specialties. So it was really fun exercise for me.
I can imagine
to have like a list of characters come to me in more of a narrative sense than a mechanical sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think of the mind just like takes it and like carries it forward, because I think of, okay, of the 15, surely at some point in time, one of the religious based, like a cleric or a paladin type one in the group, maybe one of them like has like doubts or something, or one of them starts to turn towards another god, maybe another dragon god, and then the rest of the group is like, dude, WTF. Like you're gonna get us all like slaughtered. Yeah. I'm super down for it. Is there any other hot plate stuff that you want to get off your chest before we move on to Strixhaven?
I think that was it. The main things I wanted to talk about were all my characters. But just how easy this book made world building and DMing for me.
Which you have a great perspective, because you're in the like I was talking about, like if I was a new DM, like you're kind of you're kind of describing yourself as that, and you're saying it's super inspirational, and Yeah,
absolutely. Like it did really open my eyes to what kind of DM I wanted to be, because I started out wanting to just like I only wanted to run combat, and that was like I will tell my story through combat, and I thought I could do it, and I still like that idea. It's really hard to tell a story through the mechanics of combat in D&D.
Mainly just like solely through the mechanics of combat.
Right. But what I wanted was like the lightsaber duels in Star Wars are always really, really moving.
Yeah, moving and thematic and
thematic and like emotional, and because in most of the lightsaber duels, Luke versus Vader in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, and Obi-Wan versus Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. Like those three fights are incredibly impactful to the story.
They're integral.
And like they're so they really are. Thank you for bringing that up. Like there's so much on the line in each of those fights for the story that like that's what I wanted to bring to the table.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. It's really hard to do. It was really hard for me to do in D&D.
Yeah.
But like just reading this one book, which it's not like a a super heavy read. It took that concept and really opened my eyes to all of the story that I could be telling if I just did it a little different. And so I loved reading it, and I'm really, really excited to be a DM now, which I never thought I would be like this excited to run a game.
And that makes me excited. Awesome. Well, yeah, that is exciting though. Legitimately, yeah. I'm glad to hear it. All right, Strixhaven. So you
moving right along.
So you again, kind of. So you have the perspective kind of going into a lot of these like as a player, and so you haven't dipped too much into Strixhaven yet. So I'll explain it here in a second more, but I think like max like 10 minutes. That's my goal.
Actually it's gonna be more like 30 minutes.
No, I have bullet points, and I literally like I'm just gonna get through these bullet points, and we are gonna close the show out.
All right.
Okay, so first I want to say my impression, like my initial emotion, immense disappointment.
Really?
Yeah, I have never been so quickly and so like powerfully disappointed.
Oof.
Yeah.
Big oof.
But it's because of they market it and they talked about it leading up to its release, and it is still categorized in D&D Beyond as a source book.
No, it's not, is it?
Yes, it is.
No way.
It is. I swear at least on the D&D Beyond. I checked it again today because I just wanted to confirm that it comes up as a source book. Yeah, are you seeing it?
Yep, I'm looking at it right now. There's the source books and then the adventures.
Yeah.
And this is very clearly, but it's right above the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide.
Yeah.
I thought that was an adventure too.
It's been a long time since I've gone through that one.
And the Mythic Odysseys of Theros is also listed as a source book.
So the Sword Coast, first off, I don't count that at nearly as much. I haven't read this cover to cover, but I think this literally is like a source book just with a bunch of different adventures that can be run, but basically just a bunch of content for literally the Sword Coast.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna tell you very honestly.
That's basically what Theros is too. It's like a bunch of like little adventures.
I'm gonna tell you straight up. I've never opened Theros, not once.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it's
not
cool. It's
not
really
a single time.
Greek. If you like Greek mythology, it's like basically if they just put Greek mythology in D&D.
Is it okay? Strixhaven, not a source book. It is
really.
Yeah, it is. You got a chapter. It's not a source book. It's a full adventure. It's a. It's. Can I explain what I connect this to?
Yes, please.
I did not. Well, I don't have to get into that. When I was in college, I took a. There was a point in time that I wanted to do customer service. I'm
Why?
I'm okay. Well, I'm okay at it.
We don't need to talk about that. Okay, that's all right.
I thought I was good at it. I was certainly better at it than people that hated doing it.
Yeah.
But at the time I was doing customer service for a gym, and that was a relatively interesting job.
Yeah.
So I thought I wanted to do customer service. So I was like looking for. I didn't know how the heck to. Now I understand, like, okay, you go into HR and there's like degrees for that, and I didn't know any. I was like, how the heck do I do anything with, I want to do customer service. So I know it sounds like the most boring thing in the world. Thank goodness I didn't do it.
All I hear is like dissonant screaming in my head when you're talking about customer service.
I found a class. It was like customer service 101, but it had literally customer service in the name, and it was a course, and it was online, and it checked all the boxes, because if it's like I suck at online courses that I don't enjoy, like math or something.
Oh yeah.
But like psychology or something like that, I've never gotten better grades than like my online psychology or sociology classes that I've taken.
Yeah.
Because I'll happily sit there and read the textbook at that point.
Oh yeah.
I sign up for the class and I attend the class, and he tells us the book the title of the textbook says Fundamentals of Customer Service, and it gives the number. I don't know what the IBN number or whatever they're called.
Yep.
And I can't find it by the title, so I put in the ITN number, the IBN number, and it says IT 101.
No.
And I said, okay. Shot him a message, and he's like, oh yeah, I just haven't updated it yet. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he sent me a second message. He's like, the IBN one is correct. And I was like, what? And it was literally, I go through, the class starts and I go through the course, like the outline. It's literally an IT class.
Oh no.
And like the name of the class was customer service. The description was 100% like no IT, like literally like customer interaction, conflict resolution, all this stuff. I was like, this isn't what I signed up for. And he's like, this is the class that we're doing. It became this whole big thing with like, I was trying to back out. I didn't want it to affect my like, whatever the GPA or whatever.
Yeah.
The dean had to get involved. I had to get a bunch of signatures. I had to meet this instructor at a coffee shop at 8 p.m. And this is like, I opened this book up and I was like, bro, what the heck? I was expecting a source book, and all I got a level 1 to 10 adventure. I've already taken up my 10 minutes. Gosh dang it.
Told you.
Immense disappointment. I got halfway through the book, and I was convinced that I was going to finish the book, and I was going to send it off to return it.
Oh wow, that bad?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just because there wasn't, in my mind, like there wasn't anything here for me. Like, first off, the main thing, like you haven't read the book before, but I will just tell you. And again, spoilers for anybody that plans to run this. If you have read or watched Harry Potter, then you have read this book.
Ah.
Yes.
I see.
I tried, like,
Darn
I started
it.
going through this book, and I was like, oh, like, okay, it's hard these days to think of a magical school and not at all, at any point in time, not think of Harry Potter.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
But I'm trying to set that aside. But on what page is it? Page 62.
Okay.
I gave up on that.
Oh man.
Because on page 62, it's talking about the center of the campus is the biblioplex. It's like it's a massive library and like teaching center.
Yeah.
And it says biblioplex features. Ceilings. The ceilings throughout the first floor are 50 feet high. The second are 30 feet high. Number 2, magic stairs. As in all Strixhaven buildings, the stairs and steps leading into within biblioplex are enchanted to move and reshape for full accessibility. And I'm like, okay.
Man.
And then it keeps going like that. And then page 111, it goes all into what's it called? I think it's like Tower. I put it in the
Hunt
notes.
for Mage Tower?
Mage. It's all about Mage Tower.
Yeah, okay.
If you look at the image on page 112, basically Quidditch.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, like, bro. And then you go through the lore. Again, major spoilers. The whole story is you are first year students going through a 4-year schooling.
Yeah.
And there is a alumni that is salty about something and trying to preserve his own life using magical means.
Uh-huh.
The school gets wrapped up in it, and the students get wrapped up within that, and they have to defeat the old student.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just found the Quidditch field. I mean, the
the Mage Tower
Arrow
field.
Jaunt field.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's ridiculous. So, okay, so that's... I just had to get that out there. I will keep the book. I kept going through it, and it does have a couple things that are just... I have the book. They're useful enough that... And there's things that I can pull out of it for different things. I will quickly name them off. So, with the school, it does describe different things that you can do while you're enrolled in the school. And some of those things I can straight take out of the context of, like, these are constant things done all year long, and put them into a situation where it's like a one-time thing. So
Yeah.
they have a whole chapter, a whole like section of the campaign based around like a masquerade or a ball.
Oh yeah.
A lot of those
That's
concepts
cool.
and like those social concepts and like the social obstacles to play through in
Yeah.
D&D.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good to have. I can that can easily be pulled out of the campaign and just used
Absolutely.
for different things. For the same type of thing in general, there's a lot of time spent on that Mage Tower stuff. So I can
Mm-hmm.
pull that, and just anytime there's like a sports type game or like you're an audience to something, a lot of those social things can happen as well. They give a
Right.
lot of mechanics to like cheering on your team, heckling the other team, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. It's all very good. And then
Yeah.
they have mechanics for studying and preparing for a test. That can be pulled out of its place, and just I can think of things where maybe to gain access somewhere, maybe there's a test to get in, or maybe in preparation, kind of like a Witcher style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't have to do nearly as much in The Witcher 3, but the first two Witcher games, you were
Mm-hmm.
very rewarded for taking the time to prepare for battles. And
Oh really?
yeah, so like when you were going to go fight a monster that you got a
Mm-hmm.
contract for, and still, with the main monsters, it was still very good to like understand and go read the bestiary, but
Mm-hmm.
finding out which potions and which blade oils were good for it,
Yeah.
which magical signs were best for it, its nature, its like bait and all that. You had in-game rewards,
Mm.
and the fight was much easier. Still a difficult fight, but you were definitely rewarded for doing those things. So I think of
Yeah.
that in like D&D, where like these mechanics I can put into, like, there is a monster that is difficult enough, and then I can present potential resources to the players, and if they want to go through the process of like studying and going through this,
Mm-hmm.
they can have that reward. Does that make sense?
I love that. Yeah, please do that for me.
But yeah, stuff like that, or with somebody's learning, during downtime, somebody wants to learn a language or learn a
Mm-hmm.
feat,
Yeah, yeah,
stuff like that. These
yeah. I
mechanics,
really like that stuff.
yeah, these mechanics can be used without even changing anything for stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So I found a lot of value in that. For those three things, I won't be returning the book. Everything else is pretty much to me, and the art is amazing. The art is dope.
The
Like I
it's
said,
fantastic art, yes, as always, and like art that I've seen just like scrolling through is like really really cool. There's a lot of spells that they paint and stuff,
yeah,
and the spells look just like they just look amazing.
yeah, it
Um,
looks awesome.
yeah.
On the spells, so I want to mention some of the spells, because I thought the spells were strong in Fizban's, but I wrote down two of them.
Mm.
So on page 38, I did better at realizing that I needed to put the page numbers on these. So going into the spells, silvery barbs.
Silvery barbs.
Yeah,
That's a meme, dude. I haven't even looked at the book, but that's all over the
Is
the
it?
meme community. Oh yeah, it's like
holy moly,
yeah, people are not happy with it.
dude. I'm considering. It's very rare that I, like, up until this point, there's really not been too much at all that I've said like, okay, there will be a lot of DMs to say like, okay, these books or these things are not allowed in my campaign.
Right.
I haven't really done that up to this point.
Right.
I've pretty much been content, because it's a lot easier for me to just say like, yeah, published D&D works
Mhm.
are fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
This spell is hard, man. Like
yeah,
that's stressful to like, that's a first level spell.
yeah. Yeah, first level. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's what the focus of the memes are, is like X thing happens, but what's more ridiculous is like my DM just session 0 banned silvery barbs from the whole campaign because it's so powerful.
Yeah, like I'm very, unless somebody presents different information to me, that's probably going to be me as well.
Yeah.
It's
freaking powerful. Like you
Yeah.
can negate advantage
yeah,
like
yeah,
after they already roll. That's so powerful.
exactly. And they have to use, not even that they have to use like the second one, or they have to Like they have to use the lower of the two.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's stressing me out just talking about it.
Yeah, it's so powerful, man.
And I was gonna mention as well. So they had the other thing that I already know that I won't be allowing in my games. So they the feats. There's a feat in the book that is made for the students of Strixhaven.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made for a reason, and I couldn't find the wording, but I was watching a video, and it sounded like they were pulling from direct wording from the book, but they suggest that the feat should not be used if it's not in a Strixhaven campaign, and that will be how I do it, because basically the feat is no matter what, you can choose 2 cantrips in a first level spell, and you can use that first level spell once a day without using a spell slot.
That's very powerful.
First of all, no way that's happening in combination with silvery barbs.
Yeah.
Second of all, they were saying like it's the purpose of it is that you can play a non-magic character like a barbarian, or a fighter or something, and you can still lore-wise and mechanic-wise you can still fully participate, and it makes sense that you're in the college. You're a student.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And in that setting, it mostly just levels the playing field because there's so much magic anyways.
Right.
But outside of a Strixhaven campaign, and I don't ever plan to run this campaign, it sounds like the most boring thing in the world.
Darn it.
But if I did, then yeah, totally. But I can't think of a situation where that feat I'd be okay with giving. That's just a lot.
Yeah.
Especially giving to a non-magic or non-casting character.
Yeah. There are already spells, feats that do that.
But do they do that much?
I don't think so. I won't look it up because we're already
we're
closing in on that 30-minute mark.
Yeah.
But Magic Initiate, I think, basically does. I think you can learn a cantrip and maybe a first level spell.
Well, I think Magic Initiate is the name of the Strixhaven.
That's Magic Initiate is an older feat.
Is it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Strixhaven Initiate is basically the same thing. It's just Strixhaven Initiate just gives you Magic Initiate. So, but anyways, it's strong either way. I want to move on, but Vortex Warp.
I love teleportation spells.
I
freaking love Vortex Warp. That's so
90 feet, and it increases by 30 feet for each level above second.
Yeah, and it can be. I think it's specifically not you.
Correct. Another creature you can see.
Another creature,
and it can choose to fail. Mm-hmm. And it's just an item. Oh my goodness, that stresses me out, man.
That is so good.
It's a second
For
level
a
spell.
Battlefield controller. Oh, I love that spell.
Okay, so I had to put that out there. That's crazy. That's actually, other than there was a specific piece of art that I wanted you to look at with me, and I'll get to that in half a second. But like, there's other things like page 71 has a great frog race. I'm always down for that.
Oh yeah,
can always get down with a frog race. But page 100, and let me see what the thing is so you can see it. 184. It is the stat block for the archaic.
While I'm looking that up, they're not subclasses here anymore, but the different colleges, the Prismari and the Quandrix. So in Unearthed Arcana, each of those was a subclass that could be applied to different classes, which I thought that was such a cool idea. Yeah. That the subclass would get the same features no matter what class it's in, but it would interact differently with the class based on the class features that you got from like being a sorcerer.
That would be cool. Yeah.
That was such a cool idea. I just looked at the colleges here, and it's not that way, and I'm really, really kind of bummed that they didn't go with that.
Yeah. Would you say you're disappointed? Because that's what I'm feeling.
I would say I feel very disappointed at that.
The whole thing with opposites with the school, like that's cool. Like that's cool. It's an interesting way to put a concept because one thing that I found interesting is in a lot of games where magic is a thing, necromancy is usually like a very forbidden thing. That's not at all the thing here. Like necromancy is just part of the school.
Yeah,
and
I dig that.
And they just say openly like they will resurrect, or they'll do necromancy to bring up undead instructors to help teach the class, which I thought was a pretty
That's cool. That's a cool flavor thing.
Yeah, which is like a complete opposite of like, you think of Harry Potter or you think of really any other. I just like necromancy is always like the forbidden art. Did you find the art piece for Archaic?
Oh, we were just looking at the art.
Yeah, I mean, you like look at the stat block. I know
amazing.
Yeah, that art. So
yeah, I mean it's a
brief thing on the Archaic. From what they kind of talk about in there. So 5 dragons started Strixhaven. The 5 dragons choose an oracle, and the oracle is like a very wise, like master and everything being. Once the Archaic dies, their soul goes back to like the beginning of time as it's stated in like with the dragons and like Fizbans. And then they like experience it, and then they come back to the present time, and they are now an Archaic. And an Archaic, and an Archaic is either an oracle that has lived or an oracle that will live in the future, because technically, because of the time, like an oracle in the future still eventually had their soul go back in time, and then the Archaic was just present after that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see.
So either a past or future oracle, and so they're masters of everything. Super wise. They don't want to mess with time, and so when people ask them things, they talk in like riddles and things like that, so that they don't accidentally give away something that they shouldn't. But when they were describing it, I was like, okay, so it's like a medium size like thing. And then I saw the picture. I was like, are those trees next to its ankle?
Yeah. And it's like sitting too. It's like squatting on the ground.
Yeah. It looks sick.
I love like floating parts of monsters, like how they float separately from the monster. So that like
that
pearl
orb
that's just like sitting in between those two forehead things. I dig that so much.
I think it's sick. Yeah, I mean that's my general take on Strixhaven. There are a couple things that I'm always you love combat. I'm always looking for different non-combat encounter situations that are still interesting. I'm always looking for that. I've had more and more like people that I've run games for that actually combat is their least favorite part of it, and so just being a part of those different experiences and wanting to stretch myself by catering to those, and challenge myself. So I super value those. The rest of it, it's a lot of super cool art, and a story that is kind of meaningless to me. So but
dang man, what a bummer. We had Fizbans, and then we had Strixhaven.
Yeah, well, and I don't know if I actually stated it, but the reason, so I have a character that is a wizard, and in the other campaign, and needless to say, I pretty much was banking on Strixhaven being the source book that I needed to basically have like a magic school. And this gives some concepts, but it's not a source book of like how to run a wizard school. Like I have a book in the pile over here that it's a second edition, super old book, but it's all about thieves and rogues.
Yeah.
And in that book is like an exorbitant amount of the book is how to operate a thieves guild.
That's so cool.
And I was like, that is amazing. And I spent the wizard. There was another one. It was a whole series of books.
Yeah.
for second edition, and I bought this just off of Facebook Marketplace or something, and it was part of a whole big thing that this guy had in his garage.
Yeah.
He didn't have the wizard one, and the wizard one was out of stock where I was trying to look for it. So I paid a fair bit of money to try to get the wizard one, thinking like, oh, dude, this thing's about to teach me how to make like a wizard, like a magic school. Nope. No. So then I saw Strixhaven, and I thought that's what I was going to get, and I didn't. So that's why I'm disappointed.
Gosh, damn, Strixhaven.
I'm so disappointed in myself for how much time I took. We absolutely have to end it there. Next episode, when it releases, is going to be right around the holidays, and so we're going to be talking about the games that we've been playing. We haven't really talked about that much at all anytime recently.
It's been like over a year since we talked about that on the show.
There's been big changes, big developments. We've been hopping onto some different stuff. So
for one of us,
okay, I've been doing some different stuff, but yeah. So that's what we got. Thanks for listening all the way through.
Thank you. Remember, don't believe anything we say.